My friend, if you're struggling finding, vetting, training, and managing virtual team members for your real estate business, I have the solution for you. Call Magicians is the premier virtual assistant company in the real estate industry. And basically what they'll do is allow you to focus on closing more deals and doing the things you love while they handle the work for you. Head over to callmagicians.com and see if you're a good fit to work together. And make sure you use the promo code FLIPEMPIRE for a 20% discount off your startup fee. And by the way, the owner's a friend of mine and shares tons of value, gives a lot of useful tips on episode 540. So check it out at flipempire.com/540.
You're listening to Flip Empire, the show committed to helping real estate entrepreneurs who want to build their empire without sacrificing their life. Your success and freedom starts now with your host, Alex Pardo.
Let's get started with episode on the Flip Empire Show. My name is Alex Pardo. Appreciate you hopping on the podcast here today. And I want to start today's episode with a quote that I just heard a little bit less than an hour ago. Learn to move more with the flow and not with the force. That was said by a former coach of mine, Juan Carlos. We were, some of you may know that for the last 7-8 years, every Wednesday morning, I go for a walk and talk and kind of do a mini mastermind with a couple of just good friends of mine that are entrepreneurs and coaches in their own right in different spaces. And I always get so much out of these calls. I think differently. I look at situations in my life and business from a different angle because of a lot of the questions and conversations and discussions that are had on these walk and talks. And I think if you ask them, they would say the same thing in reverse. And, you know, I was kind of sharing with them today, and I thought I would divulge this on the podcast because so many times in our life, we find ourselves in a position where we really want something, right? It could be something material. It could be money. It could be a certain position, or it could be a certain, someone we want to hire. It could be a health goal, a relationship goal. There's some in our lives. There's desires that we have, and there's times where I find myself where things just happen organically and effortlessly, right? Things flow, quote unquote. And there's other times where things feel very forced, and it's like it feels like I have to move heaven and earth to accomplish or obtain that very thing I'm after. And I don't know if you can relate to me. My guess is you can. But you know, humans as nature, we all want things. And the question is, have you positioned yourself not just with your actions, but with your mindset? Have you positioned yourself in a way in which things come to you effortlessly and organically? Or does everything feel like you're always swimming upstream? Right? Like you're going against the current, so to speak. Ask yourself that question, kind of go through a thought audit process and ask yourself, do things just kind of happen for me effortlessly? And I don't mean happen like, you're sitting around watching Netflix and eating chips all day and just things kind of fall in your lap. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you desire things, when you want things, when you set goals, do things just unfold naturally for you? Right? Like obviously not without action. Everything requires action, intentionality, purpose, thought. But do things happen effortlessly for you? Or do you just constantly feel like it's a grind, it's a struggle, it's a battle? It's kind of like the push versus pull. And I was sharing with them on this call how, my wife, Natalie, and I, we started looking for our next home here in Miami. The last couple of months, we've seriously started looking. And it's interesting because, if you're listening to this podcast and you live in the South Florida area, you understand where I'm coming from. This market is absolutely insane. And I realize Miami is not unique. There's other parts Miami is unique. But as far as like it being a hot, crazy market, there's several other parts of the country that can understand where I'm coming from. I would imagine Phoenix, Las Vegas, certain parts of California. So Miami's not unique from that perspective, but we've gotten beat out where we've come in above ask on a couple different properties, well above ask. And in one case, we even made an offer that wasn't even subject to appraisal because I realized I told my wife, I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine and I shared this with my wife and he goes, he goes, dude, I'm kind of surprised you being who you are, knowing everything, and I took that as a compliment, by the way, but he shared it with me from the sense of like, why would you possibly be looking to buy a house now? And I told him, this is my buddy Eric. I told him, dude, it's purely an emotional decision for the family. It's not a financial one. I recognize that this probably doesn't make a whole lot of financial sense, especially in the short to midterm. Maybe 20 years from now, it's a different story. It probably is. But I've reconciled with myself that this is a decision for the family. It's not one that's necessarily the quote unquote smart thing to do, financially speaking. And I think when you come at it from that perspective, it gives me a certain peace of mind. Right now, don't get me wrong. I'm a deal maker. I like deals. I'm still out there hunting for deals. But the reality is we're in a pretty crazy market, and it's always the right time to buy, at least when it comes to investment properties. In this particular case, this is not an investment property. This is going to be taking money out of our pocket, not necessarily putting money into our pocket. And home ownership can be expensive, but I shared with my wife, I said, this is purely for the family. Let's get crystal clear on what we want, why we want it, as I approach kind of pretty much everything else in my life and business. And then let's go make it happen. And there's this, we've identified 3 zip codes where we'd like to live, but more specifically, in the vein of getting more clarity, we've identified one particular zip code, and there's a certain pocket that where we're looking to find a house. So much so that last week, I actually went, when we got beat out on this last offer, I said, that's it. Enough is enough. Like I have too much knowledge when it comes to getting properties off market. I feel like I'm pretty relatable. I'm pretty likable. Generally speaking, I'm not saying everybody likes me, but generally speaking, it's pretty effortless for me to build relationships and connect with people. And so we were having lunch on a Saturday afternoon, and I sitting around, I told my wife, I said, like, screw it. Like, let's just go out there and let's go door knocking. And my wife, if you know her, that's not her cup of tea. Like, she's not going to be out there the one, door knocking. So I said, I'll take care of it. I'll do it. I mean, in 2005, when I got started in real estate, I mean, that's how I got started, direct mail and door knocking. And it's been many, many, many years since I've done that. It's not something I particularly enjoy doing, but I'm not scared of it. There's no fear around it. It's like, let's go door knocking. Right. It's just ironic. I'm choosing to door knock now in a time of, this pandemic and COVID and all this craziness. But my girls got excited, and they're like, Papi, let's go door knocking. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you mean? What is door knocking? And they kind of put it together. But I thought it would be a cool opportunity to not just get in front of people that have houses that are off market and start building relationships, start connecting, start planting seeds. You never know what may come of that. But I also thought it was a good opportunity to kind of share with my daughters and show them in real life that when you want something, get clarity around why you want it, be very specific about what you want, and then let's put a plan of action and then execute on that plan. Let's go make it happen. So we kind of devised this plan, and I typed up some letters. They helped me by taking it out of the printer. In fact, they were just kind of helping me fold it and put it together. And so in case they weren't home, we were going to leave letters in people's mailboxes. Nothing fancy, nothing crazy, but the whole idea behind this became not just looking for a house, but I saw the potential in kind of sharing with them and for them to extract a valuable learning lesson for them. And you never know what kind of sticks with our children. They might not always say things, but they're watching. And it became a lot of fun. And so we went out there to this particular pocket in Miami, and we just went door knocking. And, my wife was driving the Tesla, and my little ones were just with their heads outside the windows and saying things to me and just kind of watching me do my thing, talk to homeowners. And I think some opportunities will come from that. And we had fun in the process. Now, my wife might differ and tell you she went a little crazy for about an hour and a half driving around this particular neighborhood while she was dealing with the girls and I was out talking to homeowners, but that's a different conversation. But back to this mastermind call I was on this morning, I shared with them, I said, we've identified 2 houses. One is well within our budget, but it's going to need a full rehab. But it's not on this. It's not on the water. It's not on this particular part of the neighborhood where we really, really want to be. But we have this opportunity now with this off-market property, and I think we can get it if we want it, and we can make this exactly what we want to, but it's not on the water, right? But we have this other property that is on the water, but it's so overpriced. We're going to have to put so much more money into it, and I can make it happen, but I'd have to get creative and kind of jump through a few hoops. And that's where this whole conversation about let things flow versus forcing them. And I asked the question, I said, well, what's the difference in your mind between quote unquote forcing something, i.e. making it happen because you really want it, versus like, what's the difference? How do you delineate between forcing something versus like, hey, I'm going to take action, I'm going to make it happen? And the answer was pretty profound. And I don't know that I'm going to do it justice, but it basically boiled down to it all has to do with your values. In other words, if I can make something happen, but I have to get into a bunch of debt that I don't want to get into, that may go against my values. And so, yes, I can make it happen. I can take action and make this thing happen, but it's kind of violating some of my values and getting into this debt and taking me further away from my vision. So I want to kind of leave you with that. Ask yourself, are you pushing or pulling versus your goals and versus your wants and desires? Are you letting things flow to you, or are you forcing it? And remember the difference between taking action and forcing something. Forcing is when it goes against your values. Taking action is when, hey, I'm going to make things happen, and it fits within your framework. It fits within your values and what it is that you ultimately want, i.e. your vision and your goals. So I'll leave you with that. I'd love to spark up a conversation on social media, or if you need anything, reach out to me. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast, flipempire.com/podcast. And let's make sure that we're connected on social media. You can find me on Instagram at AlexPardo25, and on Facebook, just search my name and I'm sure you'll find me. So with that said, have an amazing day. We'll talk soon.